Before we get to today's episode, let me ask you, are you stuck on whether your story idea is book-worthy? Are you struggling to weave your scenes into one cohesive narrative? Or are you a serial starter who never quite makes it to the end? My free guide, Nail Your Story Idea, solves all three problems. You'll uncover your story's core in just 3 steps, create a rock-solid one-sentence premise, and get the confidence boost you need to finish what you start. Get yours free at nancypanuccio.com/idea. Nancy with an I, Panuccio with 2 C's, nancypanuccio.com/idea. All right, let's get to today's episode. You don't need to write a masterpiece every time you sit down to write. Cheryl Strayed wrote on napkins. The goal is consistency, not word count, and certainly not perfection. Writer Unleashed is for you, a writer who has a story you want to bring onto the page and into the hearts and minds of readers. I'm Nancy Panuccio, writer, editor, and book coach. Each week, we'll explore techniques, mindsets, and inspiration for writing stories readers can't put down. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now, let's begin. Picture this. It's 5 a.m. in Durham, Maine, 1973. A young janitor sits in his trailer's cramped laundry room, hunched over a rickety desk made from a door and 2 sawhorses. The typewriter is so old, it skips letters. He's exhausted from cleaning classrooms all night, but he's got 90 minutes before his wife and kids wake up. This janitor is writing about a teenage girl with telekinetic powers. Her name is Carrie. You guessed it, that janitor is Stephen King. At the time of this recording, it's Labor Day 2025, and we're talking about the writers who literally labored their way to literary success. Because before they were signing million-dollar book deals, they were punching time clocks, serving tables, and yes, cleaning toilets. If you're listening to this, dreading today's return to your day job, wondering if you'll ever have time to write again, well, this episode is for you. Labor Day seems like the perfect time to talk about work, all kinds of work. The visible work that pays our bills, and the invisible work that feeds our souls. Here's what nobody tells you about being a writer. Most of us keep our day jobs, not just for a year or 2 while we make it, but sometimes for decades. And you know what? That's not the consolation prize. That's often the secret weapon. So today we're diving into the stories of writers who built their literary careers while building other careers. Writers who found their voices in the margins of their real jobs. And we'll talk about how you can do the same thing. Because here's the truth. Having a day job doesn't make you less of a writer. It might just make you a more disciplined one. So let's start with Stephen King, because his story destroys every romantic myth about the struggling artist. King didn't write Carrie in some cozy cabin retreat. He wrote it while working as a janitor at a high school, cleaning the same hallways where bullies once tormented kids just like his protagonist. As many of you already know, King famously almost threw Carrie away. Literally, he crumpled up the manuscript and tossed it in the trash. His wife, Tabitha, fished out his pages and told him to keep going. Why did he want to quit? He said he didn't understand teenage girls well enough to write about them. But you know what he did understand? The feeling of being powerless, the anger that comes from being looked down on, the fantasy of having the power to fight back. King was drawing from his day job experience without even realizing it. Every night, he cleaned up after people who probably never noticed him. He was invisible, just like Carrie felt invisible. In that cramped laundry room, King called it the study. No matter how small your writing space is, you can make it sacred. The discipline King learned from his night shifts served him well. When you only have 90 minutes before the world wakes up, you don't waste time staring at a blank page, you write. So King's tip for day job writers: write every single day, even if it's just a paragraph, even if it's just a few sentences. Momentum and consistency matters more than word count. Okay, next, Cheryl Strayed. She was waiting tables in Minneapolis when she decided to hike the Pacific Crest Trail solo. This wasn't a writing retreat. This was a woman trying to put her life back together after her mother's death and her marriage falling apart. But here's what I love about Strayed's story. She didn't quit her waitressing job to become a writer. She kept serving tables while she wrote Wild. She's talked about writing notes on napkins during her breaks, plot ideas on order pads, character descriptions on the backs of receipts. The restaurant became her mobile office, and Strayed had a philosophy that I think every writer needs to hear. She never asked her writing to support her financially. Instead, she believed it was her responsibility to support her writing. So think about that shift in perspective. Your day job isn't competing with your writing, it's funding it. Now, she did other things. She taught and she did magazine work, but waiting tables was one of her main sources of income during the long apprenticeship of becoming a published writer. She intentionally chose work like waiting tables because it left her daytime hours open for writing. Those waitressing skills, they translated directly to writing. Think about it. As a server, you're constantly reading people, anticipating what they need, managing multiple stories happening at once. Every table has its own drama. Every customer has a personality that needs managing. So Cheryl Strayed learned to listen to people's stories while they waited for their food. She developed an ear for dialogue. She learned that everyone has a story worth telling, even if they're just ordering a burger and fries. So this teaches us that writing doesn't owe us anything, but we owe our writing everything we can give it. And then we have the great Toni Morrison. She spent her days editing other people's books at Random House. Morrison has said that working as an editor was like going to graduate school every day. She was reading manuscripts, learning what worked and what didn't, understanding the publishing industry from the inside. But the most important thing Morrison learned was that her own voice mattered. She was editing books by and about people who looked like her, and she realized there were still stories that hadn't been told. The bluest eye was written in the margins of her editorial work, literally. Morrison would get up at 4 a.m. before her kids woke up and right before heading to the office. She talked about how those early morning hours felt stolen and sacred. The house was quiet, her thoughts were clear, and she had a brief window where she belongs completely to herself. Morrison also understood something crucial. You don't need vast amounts of time to write well. You need consistent amounts of time. 20 minutes every morning beats 4 hours once a week. She once said, "The ability to write is a gift. The willingness to work is a choice." Her day job didn't prevent her from writing. It gave her the structure to write consistently. Okay, last story. This is Kurt Vonnegut. Kurt Vonnegut sold cars. He even opened up his own car dealership. He taught writing. He taught English. He worked in public relations for General Electric. He worked as a police reporter. And through all of it, he was collecting material. Now, fun fact, I used to live in his neighborhood. He lived on 49th. I lived on 50th Street. And I used to see him walking and strolling Second Avenue. He used to pass my window every day or pass the window of the coffee shop that I used to go to every morning. Now, his day jobs weren't distractions from his writing. They were research. That car dealership job, it showed up in his novels as sharp observations about American consumer culture. His PR work taught him how language could be used to manipulate, and that made him a more honest writer. Vonnegut understood that day jobs provide the raw material of human experience. His PR work taught him about corporate doublespeak, and his car dealership showed him the absurdities of American consumer culture. Most importantly, Vonnegut learned that every job, no matter how mundane, contains the seeds of great stories. He once told his students, write about work. People don't write enough about it. Most people spend a lot of time at their jobs, and the workplace holds a wealth of potential for conflict, characterization, and societal comment. He also understood that day jobs can provide stability that creativity thrives with. When you're not worried about whether your next story will pay the rent, you can take bigger risks. You can write the weird stuff, the experimental stuff, the stuff that might not sell but needs to be written. It's all part of your apprenticeship. All right, enough inspiration. Let's talk strategy. How do you actually balance a day job with serious writing? Number one, flip the script on your relationship with money and writing. Don't ask your writing to support you financially yet. Make it your responsibility to support your writing. This mental shift changes everything. Your day job becomes an act of service to your art, not an obstacle to it. Number two, protect your writing like it's sacred. Stephen King had his 90 minutes. Toni Morrison had her 4 a.m. slot. Find your window and guard it fiercely. Number three, use your day job as material. Every job teaches you something about human nature. Maya Angelou conducted streetcars and learned about people's daily rituals. John Grisham practiced law and learned about justice and corruption. What is your job teaching you about the world, about human nature? Number four, lower the stakes for daily writing. You don't need to write a masterpiece every time you sit down to write. Cheryl Strayed wrote on napkins. The goal is consistency, not word count, and certainly not perfection. Number five, find your portable writing tools, phone notes, small notebooks, voice memos. Ideas don't wait for your designated writing time, so make sure you're capturing them. Number six, remember that constraints breed creativity. When you only have 30 minutes to write, you get focused real fast. You learn to cut the fluff. You learn to not hop on social media or check your email and get to the point. And finally, your day job isn't your enemy. It's funding your writing life so you can take creative risks. It's connecting you with people and experiences you might never encounter otherwise. Most importantly, it's giving you the financial freedom to write exactly what you want to write, not what you think will sell. Think about your own day job for a moment. What stories are hiding there? What character types do you encounter? What conflicts play out every day? Your workplace might be your next novel's setting. So here's what I want you to remember as summer officially comes to an end and we all head back to our day jobs. Every writer who has ever lived has had to figure out how to balance the work that pays with the work that matters. Even the ones who seem like they were born successful had day jobs. Even the ones with trust funds had to show up and do the work. Your day job doesn't make you less of a writer. It makes you a writer with life experience, financial stability, and a front row seat to human nature. So, as the summer winds down, let's honor both kinds of labor, the visible and the invisible, the paycheck and the passion project, the day job and the dream. Whether you're a teacher or a server or a janitor or the CEO of a company, your real job is the same: to notice things, to pay attention, and to find the stories that need telling. And when you clock out and sit down at your desk, whether it's a fancy home office or a repurposed laundry room, you're joining a long tradition of writers who refused to choose between security and creativity. You're clocking in and writing on. So there you have it. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If you know any writers who need some support in their writing, please share this episode or the Writer Unleashed podcast in general. And if you love what you're listening to, subscribe on your favorite listening platform. And if you're listening on Apple, please leave me a review. Reading how this podcast impacts your writing truly lights me up and helps me create topics for the show. Till next time, keep writing, and I'll talk to you soon.